Welcome to the Vertical Shift Podcast, where we engage in candid...
Whoa.
What, dude? Oh, my
That's usually
goodness.
my line.
I didn't even see him over there.
I didn't...
You know,
Remind me who you are?
somebody's gone for 4 weeks and you just forget everything about them.
It was a long 4 weeks.
That's all I
Man.
meant. Wow.
Golly.
What
Well,
is up, buddy?
no, not much. Been away. Obviously, you guys have been holding it down. I've listened. It's good. It's good.
Yeah? Well,
Yeah.
then you know that we've changed the name of the podcast.
Yeah, not to Lumpy Rug. No.
That's the only reason Justin is back tonight.
Yeah. Oh my word. Still
So,
very weird.
Let me guess, what you been up to, Justin? Something like living your best life?
Jeff. Not.
That's an inside story you should probably share with...
I don't even know how to respond to that anymore.
listeners.
Like, if I say yes, I go back to the conversation we had at dinner one time. And I guess, Jeff, why don't you go and tee that off since we're obviously digging a hole here for myself?
So, probably one of the funniest things I've ever been a part of. So, Justin and his bride, Erin, went out with my wife and I to dinner, and we were sitting just chatting about different things. I don't even remember, Justin. Do you remember how the conversation even came up?
I think it was someone had passed away in the church. Mm-hmm. And I think we were
that's
talking
what-
about,
yeah.
like, man, could you imagine?
Yeah.
How would you go on?
So I think I brought that up. Like, man, what would it be? Man, it would be so different without your spouse. Like, man, what would it be like? And Justin, without hesitation,
Hang on.
wait.
Wait. You did also in that, we were talking about, like, man, like, what do you do? And especially, like, at what age? And do you not get remarried? Like, what does that look like? All those scenarios that we were just kind
And
of...
you, Jeff, you were probably saying you'd be devastated, like, if something happened. right?
100%. And so it was just kind of like the way it came across, right? I was just like, man, what would you do? And Justin, without hesitation, said, I would live my best life. Like, and said it with joy in his heart, with his wife sitting right next to him. And the look that Aaron gave you was, I mean, Aaron and I fell over on the, like, in the booth. We were laughing so hard.
Well, and when it didn't click how it came out, 'cause
Apparently.
this was me speaking out loud, but I left context behind and didn't say it because as soon as Jeff's Aaron started laughing hysterically in the booth, like out loud, belly laughing in the restaurant, I was like,
Just imagine Justin's got this smile on his face. I live my best life. And then Aaron's kind of got this shrug of like,
she looks over,
side
yeah.
eye.
But like as soon as they start belly laughing and like fall over in the booth, I was like, wait a minute. There's another part of this I did not say out loud. And the reason why I said I'd be living my best life is because like I kind of fast forward. I was like, hey, we've been married for years. Our kids are older. We've had a great life. And if my spouse passes away, like the whole thing I didn't say was I wouldn't get remarried. I'd just be living my best life, like with the kids. And if there's grandkids, I left all that out of the
That
response.
still doesn't sound good. That still doesn't sound good.
Still, even after all that?
Because you're saying your best life.
Is without her.
in a new season, not that it replaces.
There was no
What
way
I-
to recover, Tommy.
That's
like,
a-
that's
listen,
the funny part.
Even now, I'm digging a hole.
I feel like Justin is really good about digging a hole, digging himself in a hole.
Oh, my goodness. It is.
It's kind of like look. Okay, I'll set the stage. This was before we were setting up tonight, and y'all were laughing hysterically about today's lunch. You had a church lunch. And you were telling me that Justin was digging himself in a hole
Yeah,
again
he
because
did.
he was dissing on somebody's casserole.
right. He was
But it
just
wasn't their
basically
casserole.
saying, hey, somebody brought a casserole to our house, and it was disgusting.
And the person that brought it, he was talking
Was
to.
it right across? No, the person
no,
across from the
no.
table was like, "Oh, I think that might have been me." And then Justin got the shovel
Oh,
out
no,
and
no,
he went
no,
to
no.
digging.
No, it wasn't your casserole.
yeah,
it was the
here's
one
how I
next
know.
to
Everyone
yours.
else's casseroles are disgusting.
Yeah, not yours. The person next to you. Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of my problem. Like my brain moves so fast, but like I leave a lot of context behind and never say it. So
Context is important.
The best part of the whole story of Justin saying he was living his best life is the next day they woke up and Justin's opening the blinds or whatever, and Aaron said, "I'm still here. I'm sorry you're not living your best life."
it's often a running joke now.
It is, so that's what we say. Yeah, even like in the small group Sunday school class, we'll be like, "Oh, Justin, you live your best life." No, not yet.
Not yet. Aaron's still here.
Aaron's still here. Yeah. No.
So, what does living your best life look like? What would you do? I mean, you would what? Go.
Well, looking at me.
Because apparently you've
honestly-
envisioned it.
Yeah, I'm the only one that said it out loud. Honestly, here's what I should have said at dinner that night.
Okay.
Right.
Take
Nothing will take the place of the life lived like with your spouse and your kids. Like that's always going to be sweet. When I think about if your spouse passes away and you're living your best life in a new chapter, like man, it really is centered around kids, you know, and if there's grandkids, like that's just where I would want to be.
Yeah.
And just seeing them growing up and what are they involved in? I mean, in my mind, like that would be
I think it's the word best.
Yeah.
yeah. Living life.
Living life in a
Little-
new chapter. Might be
yeah.
not your best.
Little
life.
living. Livin.
Yeah. Best is like the knife and twist.
Yeah.
That's the shovel that
Man,
can't be.
I could see now. You know what? Now that we're talking about it, I could see whereas it's coming out of my mouth, living my, and you're just excited and then best life ever. Like, and that's probably where you lose people.
Not probably.
Oh my goodness.
Man.
Fantastic.
That is awesome.
Aaron,
man.
Aaron, I love you if you listen.
He really does. He just doesn't say it right.
His brain is just moving way too fast.
That's right. He didn't have his sticky note out.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well,
Goodness.
I tell you what. I felt like today was one of the better days that I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And not going to go into a ton of detail about it, but had the opportunity to sit with a guy who just recently started discipling, and he said, "Hey, today's the day. I'm ready to quit questioning. I'm ready to nail down my salvation. I've never fully surrendered, and I want to do that today." And
That's
it was this awesome thing to be a part of. Pat and I were asked, by this guy to talk to him after church today, and he laid it out there, teary eyed. We all were, and it just reminded he reminded me a lot of me when I went through that.
Yeah, it was, it's cool because if we go back to even, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Well, a couple of weeks
Week
ago,
and a half ago?
when you called me.
No, when we were getting ready to record
Oh,
podcasts
yeah, yeah.
and we were just kind of chatting about you guys stepping out and discipling these two guys. And you said, man, am I ready? Am I ready to do this? And just kind of talking about how to create the environment with men's discipleship of authenticity and vulnerability to share these things and confidence. And then you had week one, went great.
Yeah.
And this is this following Sunday. And guy's already surrendered his life to the Lord. It just, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk about tonight is when the Lord calls you to step out in obedience, it's like becoming, it's like being a parent for the first time. You never feel ready. You're not ever going to be like 100% I'm ready for this. You're going to feel ill-equipped. And that's the reliance on the Lord. And so when you get to step out in obedience in that, just to see what the Lord does with that is incredible. And so we wanted to talk tonight a little bit about the lies perhaps that we believe when the Lord asks us to step out and be obedient, that we have this running list of excuses of, but I'm not there yet. Not yet, for whatever reason. And because of that, we miss out and we don't step out and do those things, and we miss out on the Lord's blessing because, to your point, Tommy, you didn't do anything special, right? It's not you or Pat. It's your willingness to step out and speak into people's lives and to speak truth. And I think the cool part about it is, you had mentioned that you talked about on your first night meeting with him about the podcast, and he went on and heard
He had
the
no
podcast.
idea that we had a podcast.
Right.
The other
Can you
guy,
believe that? He didn't know about our
I was like, "Are you serious?"
Unbelievable.
But the other guy that was with us, he's like, "Yeah, I've been." So that's how it started. I didn't mention it, just
Right.
for the record, Justin. I did not mention the podcast. That's not what I
Because we
do.
still don't have merch yet because no one's emailed us.
That or they're emailing the wrong people because our email's so long.
I misspell it, but yeah. So he mentioned, because I was like, "Hey, as we go through this, this is more than surface level. We want to get deep into each other's lives and really understand what struggles we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to share our stories. And the one guy said, "Hey, I listened to y'all's podcast." And so I said, "So you've heard a lot of my story, and we'll share even more things." And then the other guy's like, "Oh, you have a podcast?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm on a podcast." So that he didn't know
Right.
that we had a podcast.
Unbelievable.
And then, I mean,
And so
then-
he went on and heard the podcast.
So today when we were talking, he said, "Hey, this whole week," he's like, "everything that I've read, heard." Now he's been struggling, with this decision for a while. He said, just different things and questioning it,
Right.
and whether it was a message being preached, a song on the radio, the passage that we're going through, he's reading. He said, on top of all that, it's been convicting me. And then I go on your podcast and I hear your story, and it's like you're talking about me, like it was me,
Same story.
same story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just basically said, "I don't want to go another day questioning it."
So think about this, right? To what Jeff said at the top of all this. What if you listened to the lies and said, "You know what? I don't know that I'm ready. I don't know that I could do this. I don't know what it looks like. I'm out."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that the Lord still wouldn't have worked, right? If there's a stirring heart, the Lord will absolutely engage and put things there. But for you now to have a front row seat to seeing
That's-
this guy, like that's the cool
That's what it
thing.
is. It's the Lord through his strength. And really, look, Jeff, you're pushing me. I mean, face it.
Yeah.
You called me up. You said, "Hey, you can do this." I'm like, "I don't know if I can do this."
Right.
Like, I really feel comfortable with you leading.
Right.
With Justin leading. Like, I feel comfortable in kind of being like the, the hype man. Like, I can, some things come to me and I can pick it up, but
Right.
I don't know if I'm ready to be the one, or even with Pat, the two of us, it's just, that's a big responsibility.
But that is a side note. Like, it was strategically done to say,
Yeah.
you're not on an island by yourself.
Sure.
Grab a buddy with you.
That made
and
it a
y'all do
little bit easier. But all of that to say, I would not have had the blessing of seeing the Lord move into his life, to see the conviction that the Holy Spirit is working to draw people in. I mean, that is amazing to see, to have a front row seat,
Yeah.
and I would have missed that.
Yeah.
And how much does that do to help my faith continue? This is one of those other little stacks of rocks I can put up to say, "Hey, this is a monument to remind
Right.
me of this moment in time that the Holy Spirit is real and working, and we as humans don't go out and seek the Lord."
Yeah.
Yeah. He is powerful, and he's drawing his children to him. And it was very rejuvenating.
Yeah.
And exciting.
And I'll say this, like, for me to watch you guys like call me over to hear from him personally, the decisions he made, just watching you guys,
the tears in our eyes.
tears in your eyes, rejoicing just to be a part
You're
of
like
that.
a proud dad.
It really was.
I mean,
Jeff's
you are
living his
old.
best life ever right now, watching y'all grow up.
No, but it was one of those things. Think back, right?
Yeah.
Like, you shared your story. It was through our men's discipleship group
Yeah.
that you finally got to a place where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm done struggling with this. I'm nailing it down.
Yeah.
Right. And then just the growth that's happened over those years to now that you're stepping out and doing this, and a guy come into your group who's been in church his whole life, hears your story, gives his life to the Lord. And it's just that obedience. I mean, just to see that reciprocated and to continue to grow, man. And now I will say this, and this was my challenge to the leaders today. Like, invest and keep investing.
Yeah.
Like, don't put a time limit on it. Pour into people. Let them be a part of your life for as long as they're a part of your life. Like, invest, love on, encourage, challenge, because life, you got to let life happen. And that's not going to happen in 6 weeks, you know?
Right.
And for some of us, it takes 6 years of going through it, hearing all the truths, but then you have to live on that and seeing where your faith really lies. And so, man, it's just, man, it was one of the proudest moments ever, to see you guys leading another guy. So it was, man, I love it.
That's cool. Well, I think too, Tom, to your point, if you would have not been obedient, right? I mean, like, hey, the Lord's trying to use you in this way. For the Lord to match you up with somebody that feels like your story resonates with their
that's-
story. I mean, that's a whole nother thing where it's
Yeah.
like, huh, like not that this guy still wouldn't have made that decision, right, to nail this down and follow the Lord, but like how much more comforting is it for him to know, like, man, like this guy and what I see in him and his growth, to Jeff's point, like I relate to that. It's not that you did anything, obviously. I know that's what you'd say, but like it can make it comfortable to go, man, like it just further validates why this guy's wanting to nail it down, is because he sees a changed life in somebody that's putting time into him. And then he also has the stirring of what the Lord's doing in his heart. Like that's the cool thing. And that's the stuff, to your point, like you put down a marker there of like, your faith just growing and desiring more because you see the Lord at work.
Right.
Like that's the cool thing.
Yeah. And just because there's going to be moments again, you're going to think, oh, dude, if God asked me to do something, I'm going to step out and do it. Like, I'm not even going to hesitate.
I don't believe. Yeah.
So just remembering, hey, that was scary. I didn't feel equipped. I had some doubts about how to do all this. And then day one.
Like, no, I've already been in Nineveh. I'm good. I'll go somewhere else when it's time.
That was funny.
That was good.
That's why I take 4 weeks off.
That's
So I
right.
come back
Come
with
up
fresh
with some
stuff.
new,
You needed some new material?
That's
Oh,
great.
goodness. That's hilarious.
Well,
So, what are some areas perhaps or things in the past, right? Just think about that for a minute, that maybe the Lord really convicted you about to step out in and do, and you didn't answer, or you believed the lies and the excuses and you didn't step out. Can you think of a specific scenario, situation where that happened?
I think as a guy, and I think work situations comes to mind. I'm super comfortable with church or small group or even some of the friend groups we have. But I think for some reason, sometimes with an office work setting, it's always a little different.
Sure.
Because the context is work.
Right.
You're all working towards this goal and performance and whatever company you work for, that sometimes it just makes it different. And I feel like I know there's been opportunities I've missed where I've heard hurting people or an opportunity. I'm like, I see it, but like I've got to get these other 100 things done.
Sure.
Because I'm trying to get it done, get it out the door, get home, whatever. And
Right.
so for me, I know there's been missed opportunities there.
Tommy, can you think of anything?
yeah, I mean, there's definitely been times where I've left a conversation and then really wished I would have said more,
Yeah.
brought up a faith question or something. And whether it's the context of what the conversation was about, or more so, it's just like, man, if I say something,
Yeah.
what is that going to lead to? And being a little bit, feeling a little inadequate
Sure.
to do that,
Yeah.
certainly has been times.
So I would say one of my biggest regrets, and this is being super candid and sharing, but like here we were on the mission field in the middle of the jungle, and we had some neighbors 5 houses down from us in our little neighborhood. And she spoke enough English, at the time that, her and my wife were able to develop a friendship. And so she was very kind of involved in the community and would have her friends over with their young kids and have like reading time, and she would expose them to different languages. And so they wanted Aaron to come and read English. Well, Aaron took that opportunity to share a Bible story as her her story that she would share. And none of these women and their children were believers. They were very I describe them as kind of like, like a hippie type.
Mother Earth. kinda.
Yeah, love nature and being kind to everybody and all of that, which was, and they were super sweet, but didn't want to have anything to do. And here's the confession, right? And maybe some people feel this way, whether it's at work or whatever. for us, friendships were very, very limited. And so we didn't want to mess that up. You know, if we talk about faith and they're like, ooh, you're too much, then we wouldn't have the one friend that we had. And so confession is we didn't push that envelope as much as we should have. We didn't talk about it enough. We spent time with them and knew it was where we knew where they stood. They knew where we stood, but we didn't really engage because we didn't want to mess up that friendship. And I regretted that. So cool story and all of that is those friends are now in the States for the first time ever. And they're coming to our
it's
house.
Those friends.
They're coming to our house on March 12th. And they'll be here for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And so
Are they still the same way they were?
as far as we know,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So we knew that you had some people coming. I didn't realize that.
That's the connection
okay.
there.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
You need to tell me that off air.
Sorry.
Wow, that's big.
It's big. It's really big. You know, they're going to be with us for at least 2 weeks, you know, and so.
Now you're not going to run out to like, what's it called? The garden place.
Garden place.
Like
Olive
a-
Garden?
No,
Walmart,
kind of
the
like
garden
Walmart.
center.
But the other one, the home decoration place.
Home Goods.
So what's it called?
Target? What are you talking about, bro?
The place where they sell like kind of like
A
Hobby
nursery?
Lobby, kind of like Hobby Lobby, but
Home Goods.
no. Stop saying home good.
You're asking us to tell you, and then we tell you, and you say no. Quit talking to me.
Anyway, I wish I could start this over. There was this one store that I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's like a Hobby Lobby. The whole point I'm trying to make is, are you going to go out buy a bunch of inexpensive crosses and put all on the walls in the room they're going to stay in? Hey, come on.
No, funny enough, we have a room dedicated to like all the stuff that we acquired while we were in Columbia.
Garden Ridge. Sorry.
I don't even know. What
Never
that
even
is.
heard of it. I'm glad it took that long.
A quick story on Garden Ridge. So I used to work with a guy. He and his wife, they were from India, and they invited me and my wife over to have a traditional Indian dinner at their house. And they lived in a very nice house. And
You didn't do your accent, did you?
I'm not going to do my accent. No, I didn't do my accent.
Okay.
But
Tommy
love-
only
I
has
love Indian
one
food.
one accent.
I only
that
have
he
one
could do.
accent. But yeah, if somebody says do Australian, it sounds Indian. If somebody says do Mexican, it sounds Indian. Anyway, but they were cooking us, like they invited us over. So we go in that beautiful home, and we come in, and they're dressed in the traditional Indian wear. We take off our shoes, we go in, and they have these nice different artifacts all over the place. And Christine looks at we call him Manny. And Christine says, "Oh, Mr. Manny, did you get all this stuff from India?" He goes, "No, Garden Ridge." The look on Christine's face.
Hey, I do know Garden Ridge, actually. I know what you're talking about.
The look on her face was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
It was so funny though.
He's like, no, we shop in America too, just like you. Yeah. Thanks, Christine. Yeah.
It was so funny though. They laughed. We all laughed about it. It
Yeah.
was great.
That's awesome.
Dude, Indian food is
Oh, I like Indian food.
That's good.
good stuff.
So,
All right.
so you've got a whole room of stuff that you got from Columbia,
Right.
already in your house. So when they stay, like it'll kind of
Feel
feel.
like home.
That's cool, man.
So, if you're listening, pray for this opportunity for us to have some breakthrough there and to kind of share on that. Now that they're in our world and our culture, maybe see things a little bit differently. But I know he comes from a Catholic background. I'm not sure what hers is.
Yeah. You need me to come over?
I do.
Okay.
I need you to come over.
Yeah.
But like I said, super, super wonderful people. But really praying for an opportunity there. So just so happens, Tommy, talk about the timing of everything.
Yeah.
So they get here on the 12th, and I had already
this.
set up with Steve to fill in and preach on the 16th. So they'll be here the Sunday that I'm preaching, which hopefully will be motivation for them to join us and come. I hope they will. And so
Are you going to preach on like fire and brimstone?
missed opportunities.
But that's the thing, man. Like that to your point. Like I know we're touching on this whole topic of like, hey, when you step out and you're obedient,
Right.
and then what are the things you feel like you miss and all that stuff. Like that's where, if we can get it, because I've walked through that too, where I know there's been missed opportunities with some people back in the day at a company that it circled back around where like there's been other opportunities. And so God's not a God of, oh, you missed that shot. Well, sorry, you know,
You're on
that's
the
going to
bench.
be, you're on the bench. That's going to be on your head or your mind for the rest of your life.
Right.
Like these things come right back around because that's where it comes back to. We're not doing the changing and the salvation part.
Right.
People, to Tommy's point earlier, are being drawn to the Lord, and he wants to use his people.
Yeah.
So even if we have a missed shot, you know, as an example, okay, well, it may come back around.
Yeah.
And that's where these things will sit on our mind and we go, not again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like that's the cool thing where
Yeah.
you can just see the Lord moving in the details.
And through those experiences, our faith grows, and that's what I'm realizing is the purpose of that. Like, hey, the Lord's going to work. He don't need us to do anything, but He desires us to join Him in that work, and we have to be willing. We have to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
And when we are, we then benefit from the joy that we now feel to see His work manifest right before our eyes.
Yeah.
And it just builds our faith, build my faith so much more, so that there's days, if you say that you've never questioned it, then you're not telling the truth. There's days that we question things. There's days that I'll be, like in the shower, I'll get to my deep thinking and I'll be thinking, man, is this real? Like, is it all of this stuff? It's like, wow, it's just hard to imagine.
Right.
But these moments in my life of Him showing up and knowing that it's not coincidence, knowing it's real, and I have some very specific times in my life where that's happened.
Yeah.
It's reaffirming, reassuring that He is real. And
You never know when it can happen.
Yeah.
You know, well, that's the thing. Like Charlie, our youngest, we were getting out of the truck the other night, and he was super tired. He was kind of like walking around, eyes closed, then open them back up, just stumbling. Get him out of the truck, and he just looks up, and he's like, "Dad, look at the stars. They're so pretty and so big." And I look up, and like it literally in that moment, I looked up, and I was like, "My word, when's the last time I looked up?"
Right.
And I just kind of sat there for a minute, and like one of those deep kind of like, man, we're spinning right now, and man, God knows every star that's been named and created.
Yeah.
Yet He uses His created, And I don't know if y'all know Mr. Paul at church, but he said something one time that always stuck with me. He's like, when he talked about the Lord using people, he said when you go to the mechanic, he said, and the mechanic does a job on your vehicle,
Right.
like, do you look at the mechanic and go, hey, like that wrench, I need to see that wrench. That's a great tool. It's a great wrench. He's like, no, like the mechanic used the tool, but the mechanic's the one that actually did the work and the detail. And I was like,
let me worship the wrench. You don't worship.
You don't worship the wrench or the
Well, you
tool.
don't really-
like you
don't really worship
You
the
thank the
mechanic.
mechanic. That depends how bad your problem is. Like, but I thought that was a simple example of like, man,
No, that is a good example.
if
That's
you
what I
don't-
meant. Yeah.
it's not the people, it's the Lord
It's
using
not the
His people.
tools. It's the tool maker.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. Yeah. So, and I've had that same sort of epiphany when I'm on the beach,
Yeah.
and He knows how many grains of sand.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just mind-boggling. Like, there's not even a English word for this many grains of
Dude,
sand.
I'm not gonna lie. The older I get, the beach scares me.
No, the ocean scares me.
The
not
ocean,
beach.
yes, yeah, not the sandy part.
That's what I'm
like
saying.
the ocean.
I'm not. Look, I'm a nice,
Yeah.
tasty snack for a
Yeah.
shark. I'm not getting in there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be like a floating crouton in a soup.
yeah.
No.
Anytime I get out there and I just see like, oh, it's nice and aqua color, and then like you get a little further out and you're like, now we're in like the dark blue color, and then it's like,
What was that?
oh my word, like something just popped up in the water. I'm like, oh, and then you see like those videos on like Facebook or social media of like those little infographics of how deep the ocean is, and I'm like, oh my word. And then you think about the verses where it's like, hey, the Lord knows where He told the oceans to stop, and it's like, oh my word. It's just really overwhelming. So just thought I'd be vulnerable and share how scared I am of the ocean. So,
Yeah, no, it's understandable.
yeah.
So I went, just a quick little side note, I went scuba diving right out of high school. A friend of mine's dad had all the equipment, and I'd never even been trained on it. And I was like, oh, I can do that. So I got in and figured out how to breathe through the thing and so here I am and I'm going and I'm following all these fish. It was incredible. It was pretty, maybe 10 foot deep where we were at. And I was just swimming, following these fish, and I went under the bridge where we were at.
Man.
And it went black.
Yeah. All breathing out the window.
Yeah, it was really scary to experience that for sure. But yeah, the vastness of the creation that's around us, man, that we, to your point,
Yeah.
we get to spend it in our
Hey,
own
look,
business.
if anyone's listening, I will always say this when we talk about the vastness of creation and the ocean and everything else. If you've never read it, or maybe you've skimmed through it or read portions of it, read Job 38 if you're listening. And when you read Job 38, listen to all of the things that God is listing out to Job on all the things that were created. And it is so humbling because he's like, who did this? Who did that? Right. Surely you know, Job, because you were there. And I say that not to say that God's going to be this God of like thunder, like Thor, but when you start reading all the things he listed out, it's instant humility of like, yeah, we were around for none of that. And yet God knows all the detail that you're talking about. Yeah. So always a cool little reminder of how small we actually are. So
in this conversation, so whether you resonate exactly with what it feels like to step out in obedience and see God move, or you're one that's been hesitant to believe that, I want to leave you with 1 John 2, 5-6. It says, but if anyone obeys his word, God's love is truly made complete in him. This is how we know we are in him. Whoever claims to live in him must walk as Jesus did. And I love that. And I hope you guys will take that and remember that, man, he is just a good father wanting to pour out all of his blessings on you, let you be a part of his plan and his story. Thanks for listening, guys.
Good stuff. Yep.